Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question that cuts deeper than most are ready to answer. What if I told you the greatest superpower in today's world isn't wealth, fame, or connections, but the ability to walk through chaos and smile? Yes, the ability to act as if nothing bothers you, not because you're cold, not because you don't care, but because you've trained your mind to rise above it. You see, this world doesn't belong to the strongest or even the smartest. It belongs to the calmest. The person who keeps their head when others lose theirs becomes the one others follow. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to become that person, how to command respect without a word, how to be the storm's eye in a world addicted to overreaction. And by the end of this speech, if you listen carefully and apply these principles, you'll never see stress the same way again. There is a silent war taking place inside every man and woman who desires greatness. It is not fought with weapons, nor is it seen by others. It takes place behind the eyes, beneath the surface, in the space between reaction and response. This battle is for emotional control, and it is the most important fight you will ever win. The truth is, most people are ruled by their emotions. They live in a reactive state, moved by every shift in circumstance. If someone offends them, they respond with anger. If an obstacle appears, they fall into despair. If something doesn't go as planned, they abandon the entire mission. And yet, they wonder why their lives seem to be out of control. The answer is simple: because they have not yet taken control of themselves. If you do not learn to govern your emotions will govern your destiny. Now let me be very clear. Emotion is not the enemy. In fact, it is one of the greatest forces ever given to mankind. Emotion is energy in motion. It is what gives life to your dreams, passion to your pursuits, and power to your purpose. But, like fire, it must be contained and directed. Left unchecked, it can burn down the very things you're trying to build. Controlled and focused, it becomes the fuel that drives you to greatness. To control your emotions is not to suppress them, but to master them. It means knowing how to respond instead of reacting. It means recognizing the temporary nature of feelings and refusing to let them dictate permanent decisions. The successful individual, be it a leader, entrepreneur, artist, or visionary, is not someone who feels nothing. Rather, they are someone who has trained their inner world to remain steady, even when the outer world is storming. Think of the most powerful people in history. They were not necessarily the loudest, the flashiest, or the most emotional. They were steady, calm, composed. Why? Because they understood something most people overlook. Perception is power. The one who remains emotionally in control appears confident, even when they're uncertain. And confidence, real or perceived, is magnetic. It draws people in. It commands respect. It instills trust. But beyond perception, there's an even greater prize waiting for those who master emotional control. Freedom, yes, true freedom. Not just financial freedom, not just freedom of time, but emotional freedom. The kind that allows you to wake up every morning and choose your state of mind regardless of what the world is doing. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine waking up and deciding, today I will remain at peace, no matter what happens, and then following through with that intention. No one can take that from you. Not the rude stranger, not the critical boss, not the slow progress. Because once you've learned to remain unmoved by the uncontrollable, you've tapped into a level of power most never touch. And let me tell you, this is not about pretending. This isn't about faking a smile while you're falling apart inside. No, this is about building such internal strength that your peace is real, that your calm is genuine. It's about developing the ability to observe chaos without letting it infect your spirit. To see the fire and walk through it untouched. This kind of strength is not given. It is earned through discipline, through daily practice, through choosing to pause before you respond, through taking a breath before you speak, through learning the fine art of silence, of knowing that not every emotion deserves an action, and not every thought deserves a voice. Most people waste enormous amounts of energy reacting to things that don't deserve their attention. They get upset over comments, over traffic, over delays and opinions and noise. And in doing so, they give their power away bit by bit until there's nothing left to build with. But not you. You are here because you've decided to be different. You are here because you want to build something unshakable, not just in the world, but within yourself. You are here because deep down you know that the strongest foundation you can ever lay is one of emotional mastery. Now let me give you a truth most people are not ready to hear. The world is not going to stop testing you. If anything, the more you grow, the more pressure you will face. The more responsibility you take on, the more you'll be challenged. That's the nature of progress. So the goal is not to live a life without problems. The goal is to become the kind of person who no longer gets rattled by them. The storm is not your enemy. It's your training ground. When you learn to act as if nothing bothers you, you're not pretending to be unaffected. You're revealing that you've outgrown the need to react to everything. You're proving to yourself that you can choose how you feel, how you think, how you move. And when you can do that, there is nothing you cannot do. Emotional control is the gatekeeper to every other form of control. Financial, physical, relational, and spiritual. It determines how far you go, how long you last, and how high you rise. It determines your ability to focus, to lead, to create, to endure. It is the edge that separates the ordinary from the unstoppable. So let me leave you with this. Train your mind like a warrior trains for battle. Don't just hope to be calm, condition it. Don't wait for peace to show up, create it. Start today, start small. When something bothers you, notice it, but don't feed it. When emotions rise, breathe instead of reacting. Let your silence become your strength. Let your stillness speak louder than your words, because in the end, the person who can hold their center when the world pulls in every direction, that person holds the keys to their destiny. People don't see you as you are. They see you as they perceive you to be. And the moment you understand that, your life will change. It's not always your intelligence, your experience, or even your results that shape how the world responds to you. It's the image you project, the energy you radiate, the way you carry yourself, the way you handle both pressure and praise. Your perception becomes your reality because people respond to who they think you are. And who they think you are determines what doors open, what opportunities come your way, and how seriously you're taken in every room you enter. Now, this isn't about pretending to be something you're not. This isn't about faking confidence or wearing a mask. This is about becoming deeply aware of the powerful truth that the world treats you based on how you treat yourself and how you choose to show up. That's why perception is influence, because perception precedes trust and trust precedes opportunity. Think about it. When someone walks into a room with their shoulders back, head held high, eyes focused, not cocky, but certain, they don't need to say a word. People feel their presence. They listen more closely. They respect them more quickly. That's not magic. That's intentional perception. It's what the most powerful leaders, negotiators, entrepreneurs, and creators have mastered. Not just what they do, but how they're seen doing it. People are emotional beings. They don't always evaluate things logically. They feel their way through decisions, and you, whether you know it or not, are influencing them every second through your tone, your body language, your posture, your eye contact, your timing, your silence. You are communicating constantly, even when you're not speaking. And most of the time, people make up their minds about you long before you ever open your mouth. So ask yourself, what do people feel when they encounter me? Do they feel chaos or composure, desperation or dignity, weakness or certainty? You see, the world cannot read your mind, but it will read your face. It will read your behavior. It will read your attitude, and it will judge you accordingly. That's why it's not enough to have potential. You have to project it. It's not enough to be capable. You have to be seen as capable. And that means taking responsibility for your presence. The person who carries themselves with peace during pressure instantly earns the attention of others. Why? Because most people react, they panic, they rush, they complain. So when someone enters a space unaffected by the noise, they stand out, not by force, but by contrast. They become magnetic because their calm says, I've been here before. I know who I am. I don't need to prove it. And that is influence. Perception also shapes leadership. People don't follow titles, they follow certainty. They follow vision. They follow strength. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you must be the most the clearest, the one who believes in the mission even when others doubt. Because people will borrow your belief until they find their own. But they'll only do it if they perceive that your belief is real. The most influential people are not necessarily those who say the most. They're often the ones who say the least but mean every word. They don't talk to be heard, they speak to be felt. Their words are backed by consistency. Their perception aligns with their reality, and that creates trust. And trust is the currency of influence. Now here's the beautiful part. This kind of influence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. You build it by showing up for yourself when no one's watching. You build it by keeping promises to yourself so your self-respect grows. You build it by choosing not to react to every criticism, by walking away from what doesn't align, by making your inner world stronger than your environment. The more disciplined you become, the more peaceful you appear. And the more peaceful you appear, the more powerful you are perceived to be. That's not by accident. That's the reward for doing the inner work. Because perception is a mirror of internal strength. People can feel when you're grounded. They can feel when you're desperate. They can feel when you're faking it. That's why the goal is not just to look confident, it's to be confident. And true confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't need attention. It doesn't need approval. It's rooted in self-respect, in preparation, in clarity of purpose. And when you show up with that kind of clarity, the world leans in. So if you want to increase your influence, don't just focus on what you say. Focus on how you make people feel. Don't just polish your words, polish your presence. Carry yourself like someone who belongs. Speak like someone who knows. Walk like someone with direction. Even when you're still building, even when you're still figuring it out, hold yourself like you've already overcome, because that posture will pull you toward the life you're creating. This is not about ego. It's about energy. When your perception reflects strength, people trust you more. When it reflects confidence, people believe you more. When it reflects calm, people follow you more. That's the power of perception. It becomes a silent force that opens doors before you knock, that earns respect before you ask, that builds relationships before a single word is exchanged. Remember this, every day, with every action, you're teaching the world how to see you. You're setting the tone for how you're treated. You're shaping the narrative of your identity, whether intentionally or not. The question is, are you shaping it with purpose? Because if you want the world to treat you like a leader, you must first appear to yourself as one. If you want to be heard, you must first appear worth listening to. If you want to rise, you must first carry yourself like you already belong at the top. And that starts not with a title, not with validation, but with how you choose to show up today. Perception is not just part of influence, it is influence. So build it wisely, guard it fiercely, and walk through life with the power of knowing that how the world sees you starts with how you see yourself. True strength is rarely loud. It doesn't demand attention, it doesn't need applause, and it certainly doesn't seek validation. The strongest people you'll ever meet are often the quietest. They don't brag, they don't argue, they don't over-explain. They simply endure, adapt, and keep moving forward. That, right there, is mental fortitude. The kind of strength that isn't seen until it's tested, the kind that holds the world together when everything else is falling apart. Mental fortitude is not about suppressing emotions. It's about processing them in silence and responding with wisdom. It's not about pretending you don't feel pain. It's about refusing to let that pain define your next move. People often mistake gentleness for weakness, but the truth is, it takes far more power to remain composed than it does to lash out. Anyone can explode. Anyone can panic. But the one who remains calm under pressure, that's the one with real power. Every successful person you admire, every warrior, every builder, every dreamer who turned visions into reality has faced moments that would break most people. What separated them from the rest wasn't talent. It wasn't luck. It was their refusal to fold when the pressure came. They trained themselves to stand still in storms that would have drowned others. They carried pain with grace. They moved forward when nothing made sense, and they found peace in chaos. That is the essence of silent strength. In today's world, people are obsessed with showing off what they have, what they know, how hard they work. But the ones who are truly dangerous, the ones who are really going places, they don't need to say a word. Their energy speaks for them. Their discipline speaks for them. Their presence says, I've been through things you wouldn't understand, and I'm still here. See, mental fortitude isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. You build it through the hard nights. You build it every time you want to quit and choose to keep going. You build it every time you take a hit and get back up without making excuses. Quietly, privately, without applause. That's why it's so powerful, because it's not given by anyone else. It's earned, deep within. It's the person who keeps showing up when no one believes in them, the one who studies while others sleep, the one who gets back to work after failure without the need to announce it. These are the individuals who go further than anyone expects, not because they're louder, but because they are unshakable on the inside. Mental fortitude is what keeps you focused when distractions scream for your attention. It's what helps you breathe when anxiety tightens its grip. It's what gives you clarity in confusion, endurance in delay, and resolve in rejection. When life doesn't go your way, and it won't always, you'll discover that the real war is not out there. It's in your own mind. And the only way to win that war is to build strength from the inside out. Most people are reactive. They live at the mercy of circumstances. If things are good, they feel good. If things go wrong, they fall apart. But those who have developed mental fortitude don't ride the emotional roller coaster. They stay level. They stay locked in. They know that real growth happens during discomfort, and they lean into it. They don't run from pain. They use it as fuel. You'll never hear these people complain. Not because their lives are perfect, but because they've decided that complaining gives away power, and they refuse to give their power away. They move in silence, they struggle in silence, they evolve in silence, and when they show up, they're unrecognizable, not because they changed everything around them, but because they changed everything within. There's a strength in quiet resilience that cannot be taught in books. It's forged in difficulty, in disappointment, in delay. You only learn how strong you are when life gives you every reason to stop, and you still find a way forward. That's why mental fortitude is silent, because by the time others notice your strength, you've already been carrying it for years. You don't need to tell the world you're tough. You don't need to explain your past or defend your dreams. You just need to keep building, brick by brick, with discipline as your foundation and faith as your fuel. Let your success whisper the words your ego used to shout. Let your progress do the talking. We live in a time where people are addicted to reaction, quick responses, instant gratification, emotional outbursts, but the one who trains their mind to pause, to wait, to breathe, to stay still while others panic, that person becomes unstoppable, not because they move faster, but because they move smarter. And when they strike, it's deliberate, it's effective, it's final. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more substance. More people who are rooted in something deeper than appearances. More people who don't fall apart when things get hard. People who can be leaned on because they've learned how to lean on themselves. So if you want to win in this life, not just survive, but thrive, start building that strength within. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Show up for yourself every single day, even when no one notices, especially when no one notices, because the results will come not when the world claps for you, but when your own spirit finally believes in you. Remember this, the strongest oak grows slowly, the sharpest blade is forged in fire, and the quietest warrior often becomes the most respected leader, not because they demanded attention, but because they proved over and over that nothing could shake them. That is mental fortitude, that is silent strength, and that is the foundation of everything worth building. The moment you learn to detach, you start to dominate, not people, but outcomes. Not by force, but by focus. You begin to control your emotions, your energy, your direction. Detachment is not disconnection, it's not apathy, it's power. Power over your impulses, power over your reactions, power over the illusions that keep most people stuck. Chasing approval, reacting to every opinion, drowning in distractions. Most people are trapped in their need to be liked, trapped in their obsession with outcomes, trapped in comparison. They cling to things, expectations, validation, fears. Thinking control means attachment, but the truth is, the tighter you grip, the more you lose control. Attachment is the discipline of letting go of what you can't control, so you can master what you can. When you are attached to how people see you, you lose your authenticity. When you're attached to immediate results, you compromise your consistency. When you're attached to comfort, you sacrifice your growth. But when you detach, you begin to move differently. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you build. You stop playing defense and start creating from a place of freedom. That is domination, not of others, but of self. You don't need to control everything. You need to control yourself in everything. That's the shift. Detachment creates mental clarity. It gives you the space to think, to adapt, to strategize. While others are busy reacting emotionally, you're watching, you're calculating. You're adjusting your steps with precision. You're not being pulled by noise. You're being guided by vision. A detached mind doesn't mean a cold heart. It means a trained heart, a disciplined one. The kind of heart that can feel everything deeply and still move wisely. Detachment doesn't kill your passion. It sharpens it. Because when you're no longer desperate for outcomes, you start operating from pure alignment. You're no longer working to impress. You're building because it's who you are. You're no longer performing, you're evolving. The person who masters detachment becomes dangerous, not because they don't care, but because they are no longer owned by what doesn't matter. They stop responding to insults, distractions, and drama. They stop needing external permission. They don't need revenge. They don't need praise. They have trained themselves to move with purpose, not emotion. Most people live in reaction mode. One comment ruins their day. One rejection ruins their confidence. One failure shuts them down. They can't lead because they're too attached to being liked. They can't build because they're too afraid to lose. They hesitate, they overthink, they doubt. But the one who detaches moves with speed, clarity, and unshakable conviction. They dominate not by overpowering, but by refusing to be overpowered. When you let go of needing a specific result, you become more effective. You take the shot without fear. You speak the truth without apology. You walk away from what doesn't align without hesitation. Detachment is not indifference. It's confidence in motion. It's knowing you will be okay regardless of the outcome because your peace is no longer tied to the outcome. This is why so few rise to true greatness, because detachment is difficult. It requires you to surrender ego, to stop proving, to stop pleasing, to trust the process. It forces you to sit with discomfort and still move forward. And most people can't handle that. But those who do, they win. They win because they're not controlled by fear. They win because they stop negotiating with distractions. They win because their focus is sacred. You'll know you've grown when you can let something go and not lose yourself, when you can walk away and not second-guess your worth, when you can fail and not collapse. You'll know you're evolving when peace matters more than proving, when purpose matters more than people-pleasing, and when your vision becomes louder than your insecurity. Detach from the need to be understood. You don't need everyone to get it. Detach from outcomes. Success isn't always instant, but it's inevitable if you stay consistent. Detach from old identities. Who you were yesterday does not own who you are today. Let it go. Move forward. Own the next version of you. Domination begins the moment you choose to protect your energy. When you stop entertaining chaos, when you stop negotiating your peace, when you decide that silence is more powerful than unnecessary explanations, that walking away is more powerful than proving a point, that focus is more valuable than followers. That's when your presence begins to speak louder than your words. That's when people begin to wonder how you stay so steady in the storm. The truth is, most people won't understand your detachment because they've never experienced true control. They've never known what it feels like to not be triggered, to not be owned by their emotions. But you'll know, and you'll feel the shift the moment you stop reacting. That's when you become the calm in the chaos. That's when you begin to lead not just others, but yourself. This is your edge. This is your advantage. Not being cold, but being clear. Not being passive, but being precise. Not needing to control others, but having absolute control over your own mind, emotions, and responses. Detachment sharpens your focus, preserves your energy, and multiplies your results. So if you want to dominate, start detaching from the noise, from the need, from the past, from the future. Be here, be present, be powerful. Not because you're in control of everything, but because you're no longer controlled by everything. Detach and watch how everything that once distracted you loses its grip. Watch how clarity sharpens, how peace returns, how purpose takes the lead. This is your moment. Don't grip harder, let go with more strength. That's how you dominate. Success is not about talent alone. It's not about luck or timing or who you know. All of those things might help you win for a moment, but they won't sustain you. The one thing that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the average from the elite, is focus. Not the kind of focus that flickers in and out depending on your mood, but an unshakable, unbreakable, all-consuming focus that locks onto a goal and refuses to let go. The world will offer you every reason to be distracted. Every day something will try to pull you away from what matters. Opinions, doubts, noise, shortcuts, temptations. The people around you will talk more than they build, complain more than they act, and give up quicker than they ever admit. But if you want to rise above the noise, if you want your name to mean something, your work to last, and your vision to become reality, you must train your mind to focus like your life depends on it, because it does. Focus is the power to say no to good things so you can achieve great things. It's the ability to ignore everything that doesn't serve the mission. Most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they're scattered. They dabble in everything but master nothing. They chase 5 goals at once and wonder why they never finish any. They start strong, but they break under pressure, not because they're weak, but because they're distracted. The goal was never too far. It was just too blurred. Unshakable focus means you choose your path, and then you block out the noise. You stop asking for opinions from people who've never been where you're going. You stop checking for approval. You stop measuring your worth by how fast others are moving. When you focus, you stop reacting and start building. You stop hoping and start executing. You stop waiting for motivation and start showing up with discipline, because success isn't given. It's built by those who keep showing up long after the excitement fades. The problem with most people is not their dream, it's their focus. They want everything, they chase everything, and they wonder why they have nothing. But the ones who win, they go narrow, they go deep, they pick the mountain and they climb it with all they've got. They don't bounce from idea to idea, plan to plan, they commit. They bleed for it, they sacrifice for it. And in that depth, they find mastery, they find greatness. Focus demands sacrifice. It demands you let go of distractions, of comfort, of shortcuts. It's not supposed to be easy. If it were easy, everyone would have it. But look around. Most don't. Most people will trade long-term vision for short-term pleasure every time. They want results without repetition. They want rewards without routine. But the focused person understands that success is not about speed. It's about direction. You don't have to move fast. You just have to move forward every single day without losing sight of where you're going. That's what makes it unshakable. Life will test you. It will distract you. It will throw pain, loss, betrayal, and failure your way. It will whisper to you, maybe this isn't for you. And that's when focus becomes your greatest weapon. When the world tries to knock you off track and you stay locked in. When everything around you is chaos, but your mind is clear. When the setbacks come, and they will, and you don't fall apart. You just adjust your grip and keep climbing. Because that's what focus does. It creates resilience. When you know your why and you stay focused on it, nothing can stop you. You stop needing motivation. You stop relying on hype. You don't need the perfect conditions, the perfect support, or even the perfect plan. All you need is focus. All you need is the will to keep your eyes on the prize, your feet moving and your soul lit with fire. And don't think for a second that focus means perfection. It doesn't. You'll still stumble. You'll still get tired. But what makes your focus unshakable is that you get back on track every time. You realign. You remember what you said you were going to do, and you do it, even if it's hard, even if it's boring, even if no one's watching. That's the secret. Unshakable focus is not built in moments of excitement. It's built in the quiet hours, the lonely hours, the hours where no one sees you grinding, no one claps for your effort, and yet you keep going. Because you've decided that this goal, this dream, this vision, it matters more than your feelings, more than your distractions, more than the easy way out. You want to win? Then focus. Decide what matters and make everything else background noise. You want to be great? Then go deep. Block the world out and lock in on your craft, your purpose, your mission. Because the moment you fully focus, everything begins to change. Opportunities appear. Progress accelerates. People take notice, not because you said you were serious, but because your focus proves it. So stay locked in, stay hungry, stay ruthless about your vision. Let the world chase trends, distractions, and validation. You chase mastery. You chase purpose. You chase legacy. That's how success is earned, not all at once, but inch by inch, day by day, with a level of focus that can't be shaken. And one day when they ask how you did it, you'll smile, because you'll know it wasn't luck or chance or talent alone. It was that you made a decision to stay focused, and you never looked away. Success does not belong to the easily distracted. It does not show up for those who chase every opportunity, every opinion, every shiny object that crosses their path. Success is earned by those who possess something rare, something uncommon in a world full of noise. That rare thing is unshakable focus, the ability to block out the distractions, quiet the noise, and stay locked in on what truly matters. Most people don't lack ability. They don't even lack ambition. What they lack is consistency of focus. One day they want to build something, the next they're doubting themselves. One moment they're full of energy, the next they're chasing something else entirely. They jump from goal to goal, never staying long enough to master any one thing. That is why they remain stuck. That is why their progress is temporary. Success in any field requires a deep and undivided commitment to a vision that does not bend with emotion or circumstance. Unshakable focus is the foundation of every extraordinary achievement. It's what keeps you grounded when the world tries to pull you in 1,000 different directions. It's what helps you stay calm when everything feels urgent. It's what helps you say no, not just to distractions, but even to good things that aren't aligned with your mission. Because when you're focused, you're not interested in doing everything. You're only interested in doing what moves you closer to the result. The people who make it to the top are not always the most talented or the most gifted, but they are the ones who lock in. The ones who stop entertaining excuses, the ones who train themselves to stay disciplined when no one is watching. They work while others scroll. They grind while others sleep. They protect their energy, their time, and their direction like it's sacred, because to them it is. That's how they gain momentum. That's how they rise. In a world full of distractions, focus is a superpower. Everything is fighting for your attention, your phone, your doubts, the opinions of others, your fears, your past, your environment. And if you don't take control of your focus, the world will do it for you. You'll end up living on autopilot, reacting to life instead of building it. You'll look up one day, years down the line, and wonder why you never got where you wanted to go. The answer won't be complicated. It'll be simple. You were too distracted to stay the course. Real focus is more than concentration. It's a decision. It's a decision to eliminate everything that does not belong to your vision. It's the decision to delay gratification and sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term purpose. It's the decision to show up even when you don't feel like it, to push through the noise, the boredom, the resistance, and do what needs to be done. It's about doing the work over and over again without needing attention, praise, or immediate results. There will be days where you feel like nothing is happening, days where your mind tells you to quit, days where it feels like your work is invisible. This is where most people give up because they think success is supposed to feel exciting all the time. But those with unshakable focus know that greatness is not built in dramatic moments. It's built in repetition. It's built in silence. It's built in the consistency of doing what needs to be done every single day, regardless of how you feel. You don't get to the next level by chance. You get there by being intentional. You get there by creating boundaries. You stop giving your energy to things that drain you. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't building anything. You stop comparing yourself to others and start running your own race. And every day you remind yourself why you started, because when your purpose is clear, your focus becomes automatic. That's the truth about unshakable focus. It doesn't come from discipline alone. It comes from vision. When you're crystal clear on what you want and why it matters, your focus sharpens. Distractions become less attractive. Temptations lose their power. You no longer waste time trying to impress people who aren't going where you're going. And when a purpose is overstated, it drags. You become consumed with the mission. And when you live like that, results become inevitable. You don't need to chase 10 goals at once. You need to master one. You need to get obsessed with it. You need to cut out anything that pulls you away from it. The world will call it extreme. Let them. Because success is extreme. It requires extreme clarity, extreme repetition, extreme patience, and above all, extreme focus. The ones who build legacies are not the ones who get distracted by every trend or setback. They're the ones who stay grounded. They're the ones who adapt, yes, but never abandon the mission. They don't let failure destroy them. They don't let success distract them. They stay in alignment. They stay locked in. And because they do, they win not just once, but repeatedly. So if you want to succeed, not just in flashes, but fully, then you must commit to this truth. Focus is not optional. It's essential. Your time is your life, and what you give your focus to is what you give your future to. Protect it, strengthen it, own it, and above all, refuse to let it be shaken. Because success doesn't belong to the one who starts fastest. It belongs to the one who never takes their eyes off the goal. Not when it gets hard, not when it gets quiet, not when it gets slow. That's unshakable focus. That's what greatness is made of. And that's what will set you apart. If you have the courage to stay locked in,